there about Disney? Because I do know that there are a lot of Christians, I mean, that care, that have young children, that want to talk about it, but some who have been around for the last few decades remember the kind of boycott in the 90s, the late 90s, and how that really didn't have a greater effect. And you write about this, and you're saying this is a lot different than it was then to now. Describe that. Talk about that. What made you really want to bring that out? We know it's in the culture and in the mindset of many people now, but what do we do, and why do we need to talk about Disney?
I think this conversation started because of Disney, not because of anyone else. I think there was what precipitated all of these conversations recently about Disney were some of the creatives and the executives that were on certain teams that were basically saying they wanted to push a sexual ideology into the messaging for kids. So, we've got all sorts of corporate America has taken all sorts of positions. Big companies take all sorts of positions on all sorts of stuff that we would disagree with, I think, as Christians. Some of it's just virtue signaling, but it happens. I think the difference between Disney and like Pepsi, for example, is, Pepsi can take whatever stand they want on particular issue or do a commercial that may, offend our Christian sensibilities or whatnot. And yeah, people may choose not to drink Pepsi or whatever, but they're not actually changing the product. Like they're not actually inserting something into Pepsi. Whereas Disney, it's different because it's this trustworthy, family-friendly entertainment juggernaut, right? I mean, that is an American institution that has an outsized influence on entertainment in the United States. I mean, we talk about kids, but we got to talk about everything from Star Wars to Marvel to ABC to ESPN to Hulu. I mean, Disney is not just Disney World. It's this massive conglomerate at this point. And there is outsized influence into entertainment. And we know that entertainment shapes and forms young minds. And no one has been more trusted than Disney when it comes to the minds of kids. So when you've got people openly on video saying, we want to basically insert, the ideology of the sexual revolution into programming for kids in order to affect cultural change. Well, yeah, that gets a lot of parents, their alarm bells going off. And now, in the defense of the creatives would be saying, oh, we just want to increase representation, right? They don't really see it as a political thing. They see it as a moral obligation to show representation of all the different sexual identities out there. But we're talking about entertainment programming for kids that generally has been very non-sexualized, in for the most part. So that's what I think has gotten a lot of parents concerned. And, when I wrote about this, I wasn't writing about this to say you should boycott Disney or you should not boycott Disney or you should. All I wanted to say was actually this goes back further than you realize. And this is not, if just now you're beginning to pay attention to the messaging that comes through Disney shows or Disney movies, you've not paid attention long enough, because there's actually an entire philosophy of life that has taken root since the 1800s that has become more and more pervasive in society in the past 50 to 75 years. And Disney movies have both reflected and accelerated that trend. And it's this way of life that says the purpose and meaning of life is to look deep inside yourself, to discover who you are, and then to follow the dreams of your heart and chase your dreams until you, become and express whoever you were meant to be. That is, the philosophical term from that is expressive individualism. It is the dominant narrative in most Disney movies, everything from The Little Mermaid to even Aladdin to Mulan to whatever it might be even from the 90s. So my point in that blog article was not to say, stop watching all the Disney movies, never listen to a Disney soundtrack. We're fans of Disney at our house, as most families are, but to be able to have those deeper conversations where it may not have anything to do with sex or transgenderism or anything like that, that philosophy of life that has taken root and is now common sense in society is something that is actually not the biblical view of the world. And so, I wrote a book a couple of years ago called Rethink Yourself, which is about this very topic. It was basically to say, hey, there is this way of looking at life that says you look in first, then you look around to others for affirmation, and then you look up to God for some kind of higher power inspiration or something like that to basically sanction the life that you've defined for yourself. The Bible's way of life is exactly opposite of that. You look up first to God's design and his intent. You look around to the people that he has placed in your path And then you look in to discover the best way that you live out, Christian discipleship in a way that brings, that edifies the church and then brings glory to him. That is a very countercultural way of looking at life. And unless you understand the
Mm.
differences between those two ways of life, you're going to, the big challenge for the church today is, unless we help people see that look in way of life versus that look up way of life, we're going to have people who are just looking in and they're basically following the Disney mantra with a little bit of God sprinkled on top, and the church helping them to be everything that they've always
Mm.
wanted to be, rather than recognizing that their entire reason for existence is supposed to revolve around God at the center, not themselves at the center. So I think the Disney conversation matters, not just because it's about Disney, but because it's about this way that we look at life and helping us to like be able to see through what passes for common sense in our society today, and to have a better framework for thinking through that, and allowing the Bible to, to counter us at times and to counter that common sense way of thinking.